All right, everybody. So it's time to spin this wheel. I've been sitting here letting it rotate. I feel like we've done a lot of, the same type of games. Feel like we've got, yes, NES and Atari are most likely to come up because those are the systems I have the most of. But let's find out. There are others. Here we go. Ooh. Another Atari 2600 game. And this one I acquired fairly recently, like within the last year or so. So I haven't actually played this one yet. So it's going to be a surprise, at least for me. Okay, so here's the fun thing, is that Task Force is a Froggo game, and Froggo games, if you know your Atari games, were released late in the life cycle of the Atari 2600, released in many cases after the NES had already come out and shaken up the video game landscape. So this was, people cashing in on the last days of the relevancy of the Atari 2600. And so, yeah, the game was originally released in 1982 as Gangster Alley, and it was released by Spectravision, and Spectravision is known for releasing, some interesting and half decent, and some not that interesting and not at all decent games. So, yeah. Spectravision, there's certainly no Activision. Let's just get that out of the way. The later release of it, it just, the Froggo Games version does not improve upon it in any significant way. The game is what it is. This is very standard operating procedure for the Atari, by the way. This is the very thing. Have you ever wondered why Nintendo was so tight with their licensing and why they made such rigorous demands of developers? Well, this is your answer right here. We have the same game released twice under different names. There are games that were released multiple times under different names. Even Atari did that, with their various telegames that were like different types of games, that were also released under different titles as well. It was a whole thing. So, yeah, if you collect for the 2600, chances are you're going to end up with some doubles, but they might not be intentional doubles. They'll just be doubles that you have because the game was released twice under different names. So, with that part out of the way, the naming, this is Froggo's Task Force. This is the one, but it doesn't change anything about what it actually is. I guess it was also released as Mafia. And Rainbow Vision did that. That was Australia. If you bought it on Australia, it was called Mafia. There's also the German Stop die Gangster. Stop the Gangster. Anyway, yeah, it's the same game under multiple different names. Now, it strikes me as funny that this game was released multiple times because it's not particularly good or outstanding in any way. So, I have read, because I always do read instruction manuals for these games before I play them, because, once again, if you collect for the Atari, you know why that is necessary. A lot of games for the NES you can just pick up and start playing and not really need a manual. But yeah, for Atari games, very often you do, because you need to know what's going on, what the object of the game is. Like, Atari games have a habit of, well, being very old and existing before a lot of the standards of video game practice were even developed. And so they don't hold your hand and guide you into the game. They just chuck you into it and then you're off and running right away. So if you're not prepared for whatever the game is, it would be smart to go back to the manual and figure it out beforehand. And then you're good to go forward and be like, okay, we got a manual, we can figure it out. So yeah, it's very, very funny that, like, the Gangster Alley version of this game is very much like, oh, it's old-timey gangsters and you're shooting these copper. In Task Force, it calls them terrorists. And it's like, oh yeah, negotiations are over. It's time for Task Force action, you know. Which is hilarious, but it doesn't change the names of the players. But yeah, the funny thing is that even though this is Task Force with terrorists, yeah, it's entirely different terms for some of the things, you know. There are hostages in the building, which you can tell because they're smiling like hostages do. Anybody who is smiling or has a blank expression on their face, that is a hostage, and you better not shoot them. At least as far as I can tell. They don't normally, they have pictures of them in the booklet, but there are no pictures in this Froggo Games version. Maybe if I went and looked up the rules for Gangster Alley, I would see something, but meh. I'm not giving that kind of time to a game that's obviously, as I said earlier, meh. But you have, you know, White Death. You have the Pirate, who I wonder if that's the guy up top, because the guy up top is happy for a minute, and then he gets a bottle, and then he gets angry, and then he throws the bottle. So it's very important to shoot him before he throws the bottle. So yeah, that's the thing that you got to keep an eye on. And then, you know, the terrorists, aka gangsters, will slowly rise up. So yeah, you've got the White Death, you've got the Pirate, you've got Gangrene, Hoodman, and Yellow Belly. And it's minus 1,000 points if you ever shoot a hostage, so don't do that. For crying out loud, don't do that. But the other guys, yeah, fire away. Now, I've always hated playing what are obviously light gun games with a controller. Have always hated it. Have never been a fan of it. And yeah, that remains here because it is difficult to control and hard to figure out. And also, you get these weird night raids where, you know, the whole thing goes black until you fired off a shot, and then you can figure out what you're shooting at, and then it goes black again. It's a real pain in the neck more than anything. It doesn't feel like, ooh, exciting, a new mode. It feels more like, oh, now I have to deal with this. So yeah, it's more of a problem than anything, and that's not what you like out of a video game. All told, you know, this game feels like an odd set of chores more than it feels like something exciting and interesting, you know. And when you collect for the 2600, that's what you find, is that, you know, roughly half of your games are, I don't know, doing something. It took a while for people to figure out how to make video games fun. And this one, not very fun. So, what are you gonna do? Anyway, let me put a final score on it. Okay, so, final score, Task Force, not very fun. There's not much going on here. It's just not much of a game. It really, really is not. You're going to do the same level over and over again. It's the same terrible gameplay again and again. And yeah, if you don't do well, then the guy's going to laugh at you in a way that's somehow more annoying than the duck hunt dog. So yeah, not a fun shooty shoot. It does presage better things that would eventually come in the, you know, shooting gallery type shooter genre. And that's why I am giving this game a 4 out of a possible 10 Hogan's Alley bad guys. Remember Hogan's Alley? Now that was a proper, decent, even goodish light gun shooter that was of a sort where it was, you know, shooting gallery. And come to think of it, there was a really decent shooting gallery game on DOS. Let's see if I can find it sometime. But like truly pretty decent. This one, Task Force, Gangster's Alley, whatever you want to call it, not great. And also, you know, the fact that Froggo was just cashing in on old properties nobody else wanted. Yeah, I cannot reward that at all. I can't. So 4 out of 10, one of the lowest scores I've given to a proper game on this channel's history. Because usually, like, I try to collect games that are good, and then it should come as no surprise that, like, oh, this game is good. That's why I collected it. Wow, I am amazed. Are you amazed? You know, but this one, I bought it, which if you collect for the 2600, you will know this. This is how you collect 2600 games. Anytime you're at a place that sells video games, you go up to the counter and you say, do you have a tattered box of some sort that you can pull out from behind the counter that I can sift through, you know, cartridges with labels peeling off and, you know, just full of dirt and whatnot. Like, it's never appealing. It's never great. Collecting for the 2600, it's a total crapshoot. But you go through that box, and what you're looking for is not like, oh, I hope I find my holy grail favorite game. You know, you collected that one. That one came with the console when you bought it. You know, like, you've had that one for a while. River Raid? Sure, you got it. Pitfall? Yup, you done had that one for a while. Whatever it is that your favorite Atari 2600 game is, you got it. You have it, because it's easy to get. And then, you know, what you're looking for when you're collecting is there a game that I don't already own? And that's how I got Task Force. And it doesn't surprise me that it's not good. And that's just, those of you who collect Atari 2600 games, you know how it is. You know exactly how it is. Yeah, and if you also collect for Intellivision, bless you. Bless you, my friend. Yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, people. I don't want to belabor it too much because I'm not doing any short form videos this week, and I feel like some of my videos have waxed too lengthy for those of you with the short attention spans. So I'm just going to try and keep this one as short as possible. The game is terrible. Don't buy it. And just kidding. You're going to buy it. If you collect for the 2600, if you see this cartridge in the wild and you ask the dude, like, how much for this cartridge? And he's like, $2, $4, whatever it is. Then you're going to be like, sweet, I will purchase this. And then you will own it. And then you will play it once and you'll be like, man, this is terrible. Where's River Raid? Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, people. I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Bye.